Thank you very much for tuning in, folks, and welcome to today's webinar that's titled Partner Story and is brought to you by Resco and our beloved partner from Sweden, Nemely. This is another episode of our webinar series where we talk about and showcase our know-how in mobility. All previous webinars can be found on our YouTube channel called Resco Developers, and all the future webinars are being promoted either in events section of our webpage or by following us on LinkedIn and other social medias that we have. Before we start, I would like to inform you that today's webinar was pre-recorded, and if you have any questions, feel free to send the email to representative responsible for your geographic region. My name is Jakub Bajla, and I'll be your host today. I'm also joined by Stefan Christiansson, CEO and Senior Architect of Nemely, Resco's premier partner, leader of our mobility efforts in Sweden. So today we'll be talking about our flagship product, and that's Resco Inspections, and how it's being utilized by our flagship partner in Sweden, Nemely. So this is time for me to once again introduce you to Stefan. Stefan, if you can maybe say some words about yourself, your professional experience, and maybe a couple words also about the company Nemely.
Sure. Thanks for that, Jakub. I'm Stefan, as you mentioned. I'm with Nemely. I'm the founder and CEO of Nemely. We are a consultancy firm based out of Stockholm, Sweden. We have been around for 4 years, but I have about 14 years of experience within the CRM field. Primarily, we work with Microsoft Dynamics and Salesforce as the two major CRM platforms that we deliver. And a little bit about our core values and our main philosophy is to create solutions that are increasing the productivity, the efficiency, and the simplicity for our end users. So that is something that is very important for us and something that falls very well in line with what we're going to talk about a little bit today as well. As we are implementing the systems, we have a mobile first and cloud first strategy. So that is very important for us, and also why we are so excited to see what Resco has to offer and really utilize that platform.
Yeah, great. That's perfect. Speaking of your philosophy and core values and all the things that you mentioned that you focus on, how does mobility fall into that area? Why Resco? Just also when you talk about mobility, you can also explain why you decided for Resco. Like by saying why, I mean, what is your motivation as a partner to even consider such a partnership? What are the benefits and what do you get out of that?
Yeah, sure. Basically, as I said, our strategy is mobile first, and to have mobile first in a mobile world that we all live in today, you can't take mobility seriously enough. It's something that needs to be there from day one. And with our experience within delivering solutions, both for smaller sized companies, but also the major enterprises on a global scale, we need something that is very scalable, easy to set up for a small business, but also scalable enough for a large enterprise. We also have, in many use cases, we have offline functionality that is a quite strong requirement that Resco can provide. And this integration that we get from Resco with the kind of the mobile platform is very important for us when it comes to building good use cases, such as how do you go from your mobile activities and how do you get that into your CRM through Resco. That is really something that is a very strong functionality of the platform. So when we started this mobility experience, we really went out and looked at different solutions, different vendors, and Resco really came up as the strongest, basically the strongest supplier in these kind of technologies. So that's where we all started. As we see, it's a solution that gives full CRM functionalities, so we don't have to tell our users that you have to go back to your desk to do this kind of administration, because everything is there in the mobile platform wherever the user are. We want to be where the user is using their system, not have an administrative work after you come back from the field. We also see a lot of benefits with the UI customizations that Resco provides, that we can customize it to look and feel like the customer's own, which is a very appreciated functionality. It looks like it's a platform that was built for them, and that's, I guess, one of the stronger points of Resco. And also we see a lot of great updates coming a lot of new functionalities coming, new development, inspections, which we're going to talk about today, is something a little bit newer than the mobile platform, which we have worked on for CRM for a longer time. So there's really a lot of development going into the platform, which is for us as a partner very valuable, because it means we can deliver on new use cases that we couldn't do a few years ago.
Yeah, that sounds really fantastic, and I'm really excited to hear about all things that you always mention when you talk about Resco. But from perspective, or let's say of a new partner of a company that's interested in joining Resco, let's try to go to the very beginning, and let me ask you. I mean, we know each other for more than 2 years. We met a couple of times in Stockholm, and in Prague, in Czech Republic, and in many other places. We had a lot of conversations. We shared a lot of calls, but if you can maybe explain or describe to listeners how did it all begin. Could you please describe how did you come across Resco in the first place, and how did that all happen?
Well, it came across some projects we were working with where we had a requirement for some of the functionalities and the setup that I just described from primarily from the offline functionalities, but also from extended CRM functionalities. And Resco came up as a possible solution for this. So that's when I reached out to you guys, and basically we established the relationship or the connection, and felt a little bit on how this would play around in the scenario that we had, and it was really a good fit. So I would say from that day, that work has really improved, and it's been a really good relationship for us.
Yeah, perfect. So when you find yourself in a situation where you already have a mobile requirements, I think that's it's easy to tell why you decided to look for such a solution. But I know you as a professional, you're very proactive, and you're always trying to introduce Resco in the very first meeting, even if you were approaching the customer. So how do you start a conversation with the customer when it comes to mobility? How do you even find the mobility prospect? I know that you're really looking for companies that are looking for a whole solution, not just the mobility, but in that sense, maybe can you try to explain what is the beginning of the conversation? How do you start to talk about the mobility?
Yeah, sure. I would say today, compared to a few years ago, the mobility is really already top of mind of the customer. They understand that the mobility is there. They have a need for it. Their users are supposed to be out on the field, or their sales staff is supposed to be out on the field. So really, it's not difficult for us to kind of bring that up as a topic, because it will already come to us. I would say the more bigger challenge for us is to kind of convince them that they can actually do almost all of the work they need to do from a salesperson perspective on a mobile device. They don't have to go back into administration, which is pretty unusual for them, or they're not completely maybe convinced about that. So that's usually one of the first things we have to convince them, that you can actually do all of your CRM work on the mobile device. And to do that, we usually start off with a prototype. So we don't want to take things for chance. We don't want to come out and show them kind of a standard setup. We want to understand their business. We want to start from what they probably need based on our understanding. Maybe we get some requirements or some pain points from them already before a first meeting, or before a kind of a meeting where we sit down and showcase something. So we want to come into that meeting with some kind of prototype. And again, that's also why Resco is so valuable for us, because it's so easy to set up these kind of prototypes. We don't need to put a senior developer on it. We have application consultants that can work with these things and get things set up quite easily. So really, this is something we work a lot with. And also we work with the reusable components. So we have some solutions internally developed that we can put on top of the Resco platform to kind of make it a little bit more of Nemely, but also show them the value of how quickly they can get started.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I would also add that when it comes to this particular challenge that you've mentioned, I find it very difficult to make people believe that not just that most of the CRM activities can be done using the mobile application, but also there are many simple processes outside of the CRM that we can introduce and actually bring onto the table using a mobile app. So there are many activities that are being done elsewhere, and only products or results of these actions are then somehow moved over to the CRM, which is not just double work in many cases, but also they lose opportunity to get data to support their decisions. They lose touch with actual progress because in some way their CRM is just a warehouse of results of their processes rather than environment for the whole life cycle or for the whole customer relationship management. So that's kind of like my opinion. But when it comes to these actual prospects and their needs, part of this webinar will be also the demo. You will present, customization that you prepared of inspections, and behind that customization, behind the demo that you would like to showcase, there is inspiration, and you got inspired by the client scenario that you come across. So were there any themes? What was the actual inspiration for this particular scenario that you're gonna showcase later on?
Yeah, so this is basically what we're going to showcase is how we can use, or how a company that's working with office supplies or office products for ergonomic work environments, and how they can utilize the platform and digitalization of this to avoid manual paperwork and manual administration that they're doing today. So basically, this is a company, or we have actually run into several of these companies, where they come out to the office and they would basically inspect your work environment to make sure that it's a good level of ergonomics. People don't get physical pain or injuries from working in the work environments, primarily in an office setting. And they would suggest improvements and basically then sell the products related to those improvements. So it can be anything from desks that should be raisable, so you can have a part-time standing up during your work hours, proper monitors, so you have you don't get problem with your eyes, a comfortable chair, so you don't get any kind of back problems. So that's what they sell. They sell the products related to the office environment. And basically, the way they do it today is very manual. They have a piece of paper. They basically write down a sheet. They do an inspection. They check out each and every workstation to check different aspects of that workstation. How is the desk set up? Is it raisable? Can they stand up? How far is it to reach to the printer? So do they actually move around in the office, or they stand in the same place the whole day, which is also a problem with physical pain and injury, which is both bad for the individual, but also, of course, costly for the company. So with this, their current setup, it's a lot of manual work, as I said, but it's also a limited support for new people joining, because you don't have anything. You just get a piece of paper and you have to sign it. Obviously, you get the training, but with the digital solution, we can actually provide them some inputs and some feedbacks while doing this, especially if you're new on the job. And also, once they have finished their inspection or their kind of checkup of an office environment, there's currently a lot of administration tasks to bring this into the system to kind of place orders for the products that the customer has chosen. And that's also something we can digitize. And finally, I would say that there's also the data that we can distribute with the inspections. We can distribute up-to-date inspection forms without having to reprint or change things around. It's just all digital and distributed immediately to each and everyone's mobile device.
All right, great. So now we just went through the introduction. We talked about the philosophy that you have in Nemely, about the core values, about some details of how you approach your clients, how you approach your work. We talked about the motivation that you have as a partner to work with the Resco, the motivation that you have to focus on the mobility. We also talked a little bit about the inspiration behind the scenario for today. So now I think it's time we can switch to actual demo, to actual presentation. So let me give you the presenting rights.
So basically, this is my iPad being shared through Air Server with my computer. So you're seeing a live screen from the iPad. This, of course, would work on a smaller form factor as well, like a smartphone. But I chose to show this on a little bit bigger screen, which is similar in size to what you would have as a user or as a sales guy with a piece of paper. So it's your digital paper. So what you can see here, this is a dashboard. Nothing really much is done here, just to show a little bit on how you can visualize things. As one big benefit of the Resco platform is that everything is very tightly integrated. So we have the full Resco mobile CRM here, but also we have the Resco inspections and we have the route planner. In this scenario, we have chosen to limit it down a lot to just show you some of the key points, but this is of course very expandable and you can add and show whatever you want. If you want to have more CRM data, you can put that here, opportunities, orders, and so on. But in this scenario, it's more kind of key points of the questionnaire and this particular use case. I will show you a little bit about the route planner. So we have added some data here. This is where we're at the moment. And on this map, you can see my customers or my prospects that I basically have highlighted on the map. So if I want to go visit these, I can easily tap on them individually and just add them to my plan, which will give me the routing advice for going to these. Now they're all very close to each other, so it's a kind of short route, but if you had a longer distance, that would make a lot of sense. So I can keep on adding the ones I want to visit and basically just save my plan, which basically gives me a suggestion how I should travel to these different companies. And we'll just basically save that. And what we have done is, so if I go into accounts, I will now see on my account list all these prospects that have been selected to go visit. They would generally be within an area where they go and they basically go and knock on the door and get into the office and suggest to kind of give you advice. The advice is free. You don't pay for just getting the inspection. You pay for products you might end up buying. So from a kind of a prospect point of view, you really have nothing to lose except for letting him through your door. So here, let's go into one of these. So you can see there's a little bit of details here. We have the map, we have the address information. I can call them easily from here. And as you see here, we have something called inspections. And if I click on the little plus sign here, I can choose one of the questionnaire templates. So now I'm basically at the office. I've come through the door. I read to the people there. I come in and I start to inspect the individual workstations. So when I do this questionnaire, I can just easily double tap on the header to bring it full screen. And now you can see we have a very simple form here because we have built in a lot of logic so that you don't see everything at once, because there's a lot of potential information and you kind of really want to address it kind of case by case. So in this case, we fill in the individual's name. In this case, we chose not to link it with a contact person because you wouldn't obviously have all the people at that company as a contact person in CRM. So this is a free text. So I might put here Stefan. Right. So I put an individual name. I can also put a reference if we have, for example, a workstation number or similar, if it's maybe a bigger office setting. And now what we have done is we have integrated this with the Azure Cognitive Service so that when you do the inspection, you would basically click on the hamburger menu, which will bring up the kind of actions that I have here. And if I select the scan feature, it will bring me to the camera point of view here, where I can just take a picture. I'm happy with this picture. I click on use photo. And with the cognitive services of Azure, we have identified that this is a chair, and we bring up the questions for this chair. So I can here select and say that, does this chair have an adjustable height? Yes, it does. Does it have a good lumbar support? It does. And does it have appropriate level of padding? Yeah, it does. So this is a good chair. We don't need to do anything about the chair. We're happy about it. What I can do then, I can again click on the hamburger menu, and I can bring up the scan feature again and say, for example, we want to do the desk. So I'll take a picture of the whole desk. So now we see here that there's a desk here. We can see that the distance to the monitor is a little bit far away, so I can select this too far. And as you can see in the bottom section, we have the recommendations. So here we basically say that because the monitor has been placed too far, we have a recommendation that the monitor setup should be adjusted. So bring it a bit closer, maybe it needs to be adjusted. This is, of course, also a training thing, which is another thing that this type of company would offer, is kind of ergonomics training. How do we create a good work environment? We can also specify here that is the height adjustable. So yes, it's electronically adjustable. And does this one have a padded carpet for standing? So no, it does not. So this we can give in and show that now there's a recommendation that you should add a padded carpet for standing, because if you stand for an extended period of time, your knees will hurt, especially if you have a hard floor. So this one will give you advice that because they don't have that carpet to stand on, soft padding, and that's a recommendation that we give. And then we can continue. We can scan one of the monitors here. Let's take that one. So now we have a monitor. We can specify here the screen size. So say that, okay, it's more than 27 inch. It is a model year, say maybe it's older than 5 years. So then we have given again here just an example what we put that replace the monitor's recommendation because a very old monitor might not be good on the eyes and so on. So there's a little bit of an idea how we can use cognitive service to identify physical objects. It's quite easy to set up the link. The cognitive service will take pictures that are of a certain object, and the service will actually learn how to identify certain type of objects. And in this scenario, we have set it up to support also keyboards, mice, the light. So basically everything that you have in your work environment can be identified. But if you have a big scenario where you have maybe 30, 40 different types of products, it will really help to kind of highlight for the user what are you actually inspecting at the moment without having to have a long list that is basically just a copy paste of a physical paper form, because that's what we kind of want to get away from when we talk digital transformation. We don't want to have just a digital copy of the exact same physical object we have in the real world. We want to make it better through these kind of solutions. Of course, we can also have some feedback from the individual. So are they experiencing pain in shoulders, for example? That could also bring some kind of suggestions on ergonomics training. Maybe you're sitting too close to the printer, so you don't actually get a chance to get up and walk during your day. So those kind of suggestions can come out as well. So what we do is basically once we have done this is we click on the hamburger menu again. And what we can do is just click on complete with the report. So I click this one here. And it will ask me if I want to confirm to save it. So I'll click yes. And this will bring up a mobile report. So again, everything is done on the mobile device. I can do all of this if I don't have connection as well, which is very helpful for an offline scenario. Let me show you a bit fuller screen. So this is just a sample, but this kind of report can be printed where you have all the recommendations. So you do not need to change the chair, it's fine. You should add carpet for standing. You probably should adjust the monitor setup, and actually you need a new monitor as well. That's our recommendation. And of course, this could, because this is part of CRM, it could actually go into even to an order form in the background. So you actually, as a inspector or as a person in the field, you don't need to do anything else than this. You just need to check with the customer which things do they actually want to get, because they might not want to follow all the recommendations. But from this sheet that I'm filling out here, we can drive that into the whole order and processing flow. So this is just to show you a little bit on how this kind of whole work scenario can work. And this is, I would say, a very short section of it, but it can be very easily extended, because with Resco, the way it's built up with Resco Inspections, it's very easy to set up. It's basically no code. There's just rules that you set up, and it's all very simple. We can even put this in the hands of a user, of a customer, so they don't have to hire a consultant just to get these kind of forms set up. As a consultant, our strategy is not to lock anyone in. We want to provide value. So whatever they can do themselves, they can do that on this form, and we provide the platform. We provide other work surrounding this, but we don't force them to hire us just to do a change in a form. It's something they should be able to do themselves, because this is something that keeps on changing a lot, and they really need to be able to be very dynamic in this. I think that's it for the demo.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. I must say that I particularly like this scenario because it really shows from like a business perspective that the digital transformation is really for any size of any type of a business. Because in general, this could be considered as a very simple scenario, as a company that has a very simple processes, but they still can digitize what they do using the Resco platform, everything that offers. Thank you very much. Let me take back the presenting rights and let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So let's just sum up what we just went through, and feel free to do that for me, since you really beautifully described all the aspects of either the end user life cycle or the perspective of you as a partner. But let's go through the points and what's really important, what should be taken away by the audience.
Yeah. So I would say the most important key takeaways that we've highlighted here is that it's a fully integrated native part of the whole Resco platform. So it's not a complete standalone product, but depending on the user, you can set up so they only have part of the Resco Inspections. But the strength that we see is that it's actually part of CRM. It's part of your other use cases. This is not the only thing they would use CRM for. This is a part of it, which means that it drives the usage also for other areas of CRM where the mobile CRM comes into play as well. And as you can see, as you mentioned, Jakub, this is really a kind of a very special use case. It's not very a typical use case, I would say, but it shows how the platform can be used for pretty much anything you like, wherever you have the need to have these kind of dynamic forms where you don't want to have that hard coded in the system. You want to have it basically, the data model should be, as you say, on the record level, not on the entity level. So each record can have its own data model, which means that it's completely dynamic. It's also leveraging a lot of custom logic. We can do a lot. We can show things, hide things, move data around. You can do data transformation within the form as well. So really, it really showcases the power of this. And for example, this link with the Azure Cognitive Services, which is also creates a lot of value, a lot of power, and also a lot of very interesting use cases, apart from also this one that we have shown today. It's 100% offline in Sweden. That's not necessarily the strongest selling feature or selling point, because it's quite good reception, cellular reception here. But there's still some use cases where you might be in the basement or in the cellar somewhere where you don't have good connection, or you're doing something out in the wilderness, in the forest, depending on the use case. So it really is a strong functionality, and it's also not just for complete offline. It's also a performance improvement, because if you do have a little bit poor reception, poor connection, you can just go to offline mode. You can continue whatever you're doing, and everything will be synchronized automatically. That's quite a nice feature. And as I said, this is very quick and easy to set up. This whole thing that you saw today was basically no code at all. It's all built on rules, so we don't have to code anything to set this logic up. It's all point and click, and quite easy to set up. It doesn't take us very long to set up a scenario like this, and it's also something that the customers themselves can do. So we would usually set up the first setting or setup of it, but then they can keep on growing with that solution and kind of expand it as they go on. So that's I would say the most important factors that really creates the value here.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's fantastic. Just a little side note for all the Resco beginners. Those Azure Cognitive Services that you mentioned or that you referred to, in Resco terminology, that's a Azure image recognition. If you're looking for a feature, if you're going through our YouTube videos and trying to find a manual how to set it up, it's a Azure image recognition. And one bonus question for you, I'm going to use a buzzword now because people have been talking about it a lot. If you try to deliver the same product, the same result with the Power Apps, what would be the different? Would it be even possible? Of course, it would be possible. Of course, the Power is very strong, but let's try to compare it very briefly.
Yeah, I would say you're right. It's possible, but in my experience, it's not as quick, and it's not as easy, and it's not as easy for a novice user to use it. It's a little bit still more technical, and it will take more effort to set the similar thing up in a Power App, in my experience.
All right, great. That's fantastic. Thank you very much. So at this moment, I would like to thank you very much for the demonstration, for the introduction, and for just finding the time to be here with me today. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for everybody who registered or who's watching us on the YouTube. If you're interested in knowing more about what we do, you can find both companies on LinkedIn. So also you can find on LinkedIn me or Stefan. Either you're from Sweden and you're a partner and you would like to learn more about know-how that Stefan already has, or I don't know, you're the company from Sweden, you would like to talk directly to Resco about the other capabilities, other features, you can talk directly to me. Or in general, if you're from any other country, from any other industry, you can contact my colleagues on their email. So if you have any questions, feel free to send them through. You can also send an email to sales@resco.net. This is how we're going to handle questions for today. As I said in the beginning, this webinar is being pre-recorded due to business circumstances and traveling and etc. So thank you very much for your attention, Stefan. Thank you very much once again for the great demo. It was really very nice to see how you can really easy do your best and deliver the top value, advanced value for customers. So thank you very much once again.
Thank you.
And folks, just stay tuned to our weekly webinars. We have a lot of partner webinars. We have all of product team webinars where we explain all our features, etc. So just stay tuned to our social medias, to our YouTube channel, and I'm sure that we'll each other very soon. So thank you very much and goodbye. Take care.
Bye, guys.